Imagine a torrential rainstorm hammering against the windows of a high-rise. Inside, isolated in a soundproof booth, is Elias. He's the late-night host for City Wave Radio, broadcasting alone to a sleeping city. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the studio's silence breaks. The main switchboard lights up from a source the digital display can only identify as an unknown frequency. When Elias answers, the voice on the other end is breathless and panicked. The caller makes an impossible claim. He is Elias, calling from exactly 24 hours in the future. It sounds like a bad joke until the caller delivers a highly specific life-or-death warning. He tells Elias that if he plays the scheduled 3 a.m. analog promo tape, he will be killed. Elias listens to the caller's specific vocal tics, the subtle rasp on certain consonants, and the sharp intake of breath before every sentence. These are his own nervous habits, details no prankster could mimic perfectly. In an instant, the soundproof walls of the studio offer no comfort. He is suddenly faced with a terrifying scenario. If your own voice reached across time to tell you you were about to die, what would you do? For the next 40 minutes, Elias watches the studio clock count down. As the digital numbers click over to 3 a.m., his hand hovers over the console. He trusts the voice and skips the promo tape. The moment he bypasses the analog deck, a massive electrical surge rips through the grid. The equipment overloads, detonating the old radio tape deck into a shower of sparks and jagged metal. Elias simply stares at the smoking ruin. A piece of heavy metal shrapnel is embedded in the back of his chair, right where his chest would have been sitting. The smoking debris is proof that the caller's timeline is real. But Elias is still breathing, meaning the future he was promised is already starting to shift. The following night, Elias returns to a damaged, makeshift booth. He sits quietly, eyes glued to the switchboard, waiting for the clock to hit 2:17 a.m. Right on time, the line connects. The future Elias has answers. This animated diagram shows what is happening directly above the station. A classified military broadcast tower on the roof is functioning as a temporal transmitter. It emits concentric vector waves that bounce off the upper atmosphere and reflect downward into an adjacent, delayed timeline. The technology is unstable. The temporal barrier filters out almost everything except for a single audio waveform. It bleeds into the past, allowing narrow radio frequencies to connect to the station's console. But this connection has a price. The future Elias explains that he discovered the illegal nature of the rooftop experiment, and the people running it are hunting him to ensure he stays silent. The caller reveals the identity of the assassin. It's Marcus, Elias's producer and closest friend for a decade. The future Elias lays out the final parameters of the night. He says Marcus will arrive at the studio doors at exactly 2:30 a.m. He'll be holding 2 cups of coffee, but hiding a suppressed weapon inside his heavy coat. Before Elias can ask how to stop him, a sharp, muffled crack echoes through the phone speaker. The line goes dead. Tomorrow's Elias has been found. This creates an incredibly grim scenario. Elias now knows the exact minute of his impending execution. He knows the weapon, and he knows the face of his killer. But he is locked inside a reinforced room with nowhere to run. It is 2:28 a.m. The air in the tiny radio booth feels suffocating. Elias locks the reinforced steel door, his eyes fixed on the entrance. 2 minutes later, a figure approaches the glass. It's Marcus. He's holding 2 steaming coffee cups, and right where the future Elias wanted it would be, there is a heavy, unnatural bulge in his right coat pocket. Marcus gestures for Elias to open up. Instead, Elias flips the intercom and tells him he knows about the transmitter on the roof. Instantly, Marcus's friendly facade drops into cold malice. Marcus draws a suppressed handgun and fires at the door's locking mechanism. The bullet strikes the heavy soundproof glass, spiderwebbing the surface in a violent impact, but the reinforced pane holds. Knowing the glass won't survive a second shot, Elias reaches past the damaged console and slams the master override switch, routing his microphone to the city's emergency broadcast network. He starts broadcasting Marcus's name, his description, and the details of the assassination attempt to hundreds of thousands of listeners. Realizing he is no longer operating in secret, Marcus lowers his gun and flees into the night. Elias survived by dragging a private execution into the light of a public broadcast. He used the very airwaves he was supposed to die for to ensure he wouldn't be another quiet casualty. The fallout is immediate. Marcus is arrested within the hour. By sunrise, unmarked trucks arrive to quietly dismantle the rooftop experiment before the authorities can investigate the site. The next night, Elias sits in the quiet studio. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the switchboard lights up one final time. The voice on the other end is weak but calm. The future Elias explains that because the loop is broken, the reality he came from no longer has a path to exist. With a final word of thanks, the signal drops out. His own existence has been rendered impossible by Elias's survival. The disasters in our own lives rarely announce themselves with a phone call from tomorrow. The real threats we face are built by the choices we make today. We hold the tools to change our direction. We just have to be willing to listen to the warnings before the clock runs out.